Aisha had always been known as a sharp-minded and capable young woman. Teachers praised her intelligence, neighbors admired her confidence, and relatives often said she would achieve something great in life. Yet inside her, there was a storm that never seemed to calm. Anger lived in her heart like a constant fire, burning quietly but dangerously. She lived with her father, Mr. Rahman, in a modest house at the edge of the city. The house was clean and orderly, but it felt empty, as if joy had slowly walked out and never returned. Her mother had died when Aisha was still a child. Since that day, the laughter in the house had faded. Mr. Rahman tried to fill both the roles of mother and father, but no matter how hard he tried, he always felt something was missing. He woke up early every morning, prepared breakfast, and left for work before the sun fully rose. He worked as a clerk in a government school, earning just enough to survive. His clothes were simple, his shoes old, and his face always tired, yet his love for his daughter never weakened. Aisha, however, felt trapped in this life. She believed her father's love was control, his concern was pressure, and his advice was interference. She wanted freedom, excitement, and recognition. She compared her life to others she saw on social media and felt cheated. Whenever she looked at her father, she did not see sacrifice, she saw limitation. Small things irritated her easily. If the electricity went out, she complained loudly. If food was not prepared on time, she slammed doors. When her father asked about her studies or future plans, she felt attacked. Words escaped her mouth without thought, sharp and painful. Mr. Rahman noticed the change in her behavior. He remembered the little girl who used to run into his arms after school, sharing every detail of her day. Now, she barely spoke to him. At dinner, silence sat between them like a wall. He often tried to start conversations, but Aisha answered with short, cold replies. One evening, rain fell softly outside, tapping against the windows. Mr. Rahman returned home exhausted, his shoulders heavy with the weight of the day. He saw Aisha sitting on the sofa, scrolling on her phone, her face tense. He hesitated but then spoke gently, choosing his words carefully. Aisha, he said, you seem upset these days. I worry about you. She did not look up. I'm fine. You don't smile anymore, he continued softly. If something is troubling you, you can talk to me. That was the moment her anger exploded. She threw her phone aside and stood up, her eyes burning. You worry too much, she shouted. You don't understand me at all. You never have. You just want me to live the same boring life you lived. The words struck Mr. Rahman deeply. He felt them cut through his heart, but he did not raise his voice. He had learned long ago that anger only creates more anger. He looked at her with sad eyes, filled with love and helplessness. I only want what is best for you, he said quietly. That's what you think, Aisha replied bitterly. You don't know my dreams. You don't know my pain. She walked into her room and slammed the door. The sound echoed through the house, louder than the thunder outside. Mr. Rahman remained standing in the living room. He slowly sat down, holding his head in his hands. He wondered where he had failed as a father. He remembered the promises he made to his late wife, to protect their daughter and raise her with love. Tears quietly filled his eyes, but he wiped them away before they could fall. That night, Aisha lay awake in her bed. Her anger kept her restless. She replayed the argument in her mind, convincing herself she was right. Yet deep inside, there was an emptiness she could not explain. Her heart felt heavy, but she refused to admit regret. Anger made her feel strong, as if it gave her power over her pain. In the next room, Mr. Rahman sat alone, staring at an old family photograph. It showed Aisha as a child, sitting on her mother's lap, smiling brightly. He whispered a silent prayer for his daughter's happiness, even if it meant she would one day leave him behind. The house stayed quiet through the night. Two hearts beat under the same roof, both filled with pain, both longing for understanding, yet separated by unspoken words and uncontrolled anger. Neither of them knew that this anger was slowly pushing them toward a moment that would change everything forever. The morning began like any other, but something in the air felt heavy and uncertain. Aisha woke up late, her mind still filled with the anger from the night before. She dressed quickly, grabbed her bag, and walked out of the house without looking at her father. Mr. Rahman stood near the kitchen door, holding a cup of tea he had prepared for her. He opened his mouth to speak, but the door closed before any words could escape. The sound of the lock turning felt final, like a line drawn between them. Mr. Rahman sighed and placed the untouched tea on the table. He sat down slowly, rubbing his chest as a dull pain passed through him. He ignored it, as he often did, telling himself it was only tiredness. Life had taught him to endure discomfort silently. After a few minutes, he gathered his things and left for work, carrying both his responsibilities and his worries with him. At college, Aisha tried to focus on her lectures, but her thoughts wandered. Her friends laughed and chatted, yet she felt distant from them. The anger that once made her feel powerful now felt confusing and restless. She checked her phone repeatedly, though she did not know why. She told herself she did not care, but her heart betrayed her calm expression. Hours later, while she was walking between classes, her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. She answered casually, but the voice on the other end was shaking. "Is this Aisha, daughter of Mr. Rahman?" the man asked. "Yes," she replied, suddenly alert. "Your father collapsed at work. He has been taken to the hospital." The world seemed to stop. The noise around her faded, and her legs felt weak. The anger that had filled her heart disappeared in an instant, replaced by fear. Without thinking, she dropped her bag and ran out of the college gates, her breath uneven and her thoughts racing. At the hospital, the smell of medicine and disinfectant hit her senses. She rushed to the reception desk, her voice trembling as she asked for her father. A nurse pointed her toward a small room at the end of the corridor. Each step felt heavier than the last. When she entered the room, the sight broke her. Mr. Rahman lay on the bed, pale and motionless, with wires attached to his body. The strong man she had known all her life suddenly looked fragile and small. Machines beeped softly, marking time she had taken for granted. Tears streamed down Aisha's face as she moved closer. She remembered all the moments she had ignored, all the harsh words she had spoken. Guilt wrapped around her heart like a tight rope. After some time, Mr. Rahman slowly opened his eyes. He turned his head slightly and saw Aisha standing there, her eyes red and swollen from crying. A faint smile appeared on his lips. "Aisha," he whispered, his voice weak but gentle. "Are you all right?" Those simple words shattered her completely. Even now, lying in pain, he was worried about her. She held his hand tightly, as if afraid he might disappear. "I'm here, Abba," she said through tears. "I'm so sorry. I was angry all the time. I hurt you. I didn't understand." Mr. Rahman squeezed her hand softly. "Anger often comes from pain," he said slowly. "I knew you were hurting. I only wished you would let me help." Aisha lowered her head and cried openly. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel everything she had been hiding: loneliness, fear, and love. She realized that her anger had been a shield, protecting her from the pain of losing her mother and the fear of losing her father too. The doctor later explained that Mr. Rahman had suffered from exhaustion and stress. He would need rest and care, but he would recover. Relief washed over Aisha like a wave, but the lesson remained deeply carved in her heart. Over the next few days, Aisha stayed by her father's side. She helped him eat, adjusted his pillows, and listened to his stories. She noticed the lines on his face, the gray in his hair, and the quiet strength in his eyes. She began to see his love not as control, but as sacrifice. When they returned home, the house felt different. It was the same small space, but it no longer felt empty. Aisha took responsibility for household chores, prepared meals, and spoke gently to her father. Laughter slowly returned, replacing the silence that once lived there. Aisha also changed within herself. She learned to express her feelings instead of hiding them behind anger. She spoke openly about her dreams and fears, and her father listened with patience and pride. Together, they found understanding. The angry daughter was no longer ruled by her rage. She had learned that love does not always come in the form we expect, but it is always present. Through regret and realization, she discovered that anger can destroy hearts, but love, once understood, can heal even the deepest wounds.